It's interesting that you can learn about who somebody was from who he was not. And that's what we're going to do here as we look at living like Epaphras, the second lecture. We understand from reading the scriptures in the book of Colossians, a letter to the Colossian church, that Epaphras was not an apostle. It was not a person with a major title, yet his work was incredibly strong. So you don't have to be a title holder to do great work. He was not seeking attention. You don't go praying for people, serving the Apostle Paul if you're really looking for attention. Epaphras was not putting his own needs first. Trust me, this man must have had needs. He may have had a family. He may have been married. He may have had work to do. But he put his needs second. He put his needs in second place and put the needs of the church first. So we understand by Paul calling him a hard worker that he was not a lazy person. What can we learn? What we learn from Epaphras? What can we learn from Epaphras? Well, we learn that God answers or God hears any believer. It's praying for the whole church here. He says, is wrestling for you in prayer that you may stand firm in all the will of God. Not some of the will of God, all the will of God. Mature and fully assured. Fully assured there means not leaving room for any doubt whatsoever. The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 4 how Abraham was fully persuaded. And that's what Epaphras was praying for the church. The other thing we learn from Epaphras that we can cultivate as a habit is we can be good examples for our leaders too. Notice how Paul gives a vivid account of how Epaphras lived. In chapter 4, he says, I vouch for him that he's working for you and for those in Laodicea, Hierapolis, and of course Colossae. And then he says again in chapter 1 verse 7, you learnt it from Epaphras, our dear servant, who is a faithful minister of Christ on our behalf. So Paul looked at this man's lifestyle and he must have loved it. And there were certain things, I'm sure, that Paul may have learned from him. Sometimes we only believe we learn from our leaders. I've got to tell you that leaders can also learn from the congregant too. And finally, growth is caused by prayer. Look, Epaphras had to pray it in. He had to pray the people to be mature, to be fully assured, to walk in all the will of God. As you walk in all the will of God, you automatically become mature. And as you become mature, you become more fully assured in what you believe about Christ, in what you know about Christ, and you're able to teach those things also to other people. So Epaphras, although not mentioned a lot by many people, is actually a man of God that we can learn from. And I hope that you can learn from Epaphras and cultivate some of these habits into your life, knowing that God hears you, you're a good example, and you can cause other Christians to grow. See you in the next lecture.